on. All right, welcome everyone to Coaching for Coaches free community call. Today is January 6th, and we're gonna have kind of a little session of just Q&As. You have questions, we can all help you answer it. So I'm Christy, I'm a life coach and business strategist, and I'm gonna be helping with tech. Some of you have already met me, and if you already know how this runs, if you want to come off of mute, you can either unmute yourself. It's at the bottom left corner. If you have any trouble coming off of mute, just send me a message and I'll unmute you for you. If you have any other questions that are tech related, you can go ahead and also message me either privately or in the group. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. But with that said, I'll pass this back over to Gretchen.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Happy first Wednesday of January. I can never believe how fast it all goes. So tonight, we are just going to do kind of a Q&A of real live coaching, where you're at in your business, maybe somewhere that you're stuck. Maybe you've got something going on with a client, a client that you'd like to close, that you'd like to serve, and you want to figure out how to get that person to really a yes to a contract. Or maybe there's just something else going on in your life, personally or professionally, that's getting in your way that you could use some hot seat coaching on. So we'll just, however you guys want to do it, whatever you want to throw in onto the floor, we'll go for it. And I'm happy to answer your questions. The rest of you can answer questions as well, because we really want this to be a community effort with all of us sort of collaborating. So who wants to go first? All right, go for it.
So I actually had I guess I want to call it an introductory call with another client this week. And in fact, she is my son's fourth grade teacher. And she had reached out to me saying that she wanted to start coaching with me. She's just had a lot of stuff in her life. And so we talked for an hour, and she was like so excited and like basically like a yes. And like, okay, so how does this work? Like, how do we go from here? Like, she was so committed. And then when I started talking about the money, she immediately was like, oh, she's like, I can't afford that. And it really like, she went from being like such a firm yes, and so excited to like I felt like her whole like energy like deflate. And she kind of even got off the phone kind of quickly. And she was like, I really can't afford that, but like, I don't know, I'll think about it. So I then emailed her, because I also like, she needs so much help, and I have like a heart, like a soft spot for her. Or is that what you say? How you say that? A warm, whatever. I feel for her, and I really want to help her. So it's sort of though like hurts me that like the money is the thing, even though I know, right, you have said that if it is something that she really wants, like she will find the money. So basically I emailed her and had said I could do this, and I discounted it like another $500. And then I also said I could do payment plans, like broke into 3 parts for a 3-month program. And I haven't heard anything back.
So first of all, good job having an enrollment call, right? I mean, the more we can have them, the more we get to practice. And that's what all of this is just practicing. So I just, first of all, want to really commend you for that. Michael, I'm going to put you on the spot. Help her out. What should she do?
Oh boy. To be honest with you, Gretchen, I have a very similar, if not the exact same question. How do you follow up with somebody who just dropped a money block?
Okay.
Because I had that happen. So honestly, I would like to pass it to somebody else. Well,
first, I'm going to push you a little bit, because we've coached quite a bit. And what do you know about checking the yes?
Oh, well, that I can answer. So checking the yes is, it basically saying like, look, almost try and convince them not to do it, and then have them push back and say, no, I really want this. Say like, okay, well, you understand what this means. It's not only a financial commitment, but it's your time, pushing through pushing your boundaries, pushing through uncomfortable feelings, doing things out of your comfort zone long enough so that they become, patterns, better patterns than what you're doing right now, things like that. And I really want to make sure that this is the right time for you, because, you know, once we get started, we don't want to stop. And then let them come back and say like, no, 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 I really want this. I'm totally ready. And then really, that's how I would do it. That's how I would like really check the yes. And that's how I've gotten a lot more buy-in
Yeah.
as it comes to that. Now, I wish I could say that I haven't still gotten a money block, that I was wondering, you know, I was going to ask you, how do I follow up on that? But, you know, I'll ask that later. That's what I can say.
Okay, good. Anyone want to add anything to that? Anything that you know about maybe something Andrea could have done?
I unmuted myself. I don't know that Andrea could have done anything different or I could have done anything different, but I know that I've heard you say, you know, offer it's an experience first before they say yes to the money. They should at least experience sort of an aha moment from coaching. And not a but, and I've been in her position where we've done all that.
Yes.
Where I've done all that and still had that the minute the dollar amount comes out, it's like, okay, you've experienced the power of coaching. You really say you want in. So I can see both sides. And to add to it, there's a part of me that's a little bit judgmental when a client tells you about all the money they're spending on other things.
Mm-hmm.
And yet here's this thing that has to do with their growth or their development. And that's a financial block.
Yeah. Okay, good. Natasha, you have anything to add?
I guess what comes up for me is just making sure that you're hitting the nail on the head with what they really want to get out of the coaching. So maybe just kind of just checking in and seeing what do they really want to get out of coaching. And then I know that sometimes what they say that they want, what they came in initially with isn't always what they really want to leave with. And so like finding out what they really want can help lead to the yes. But then, you know, if there's a money thing there and they don't see the value, then they're just maybe not ready for the transformation. And there's some fear behind that.
Okay. So this is good. And, you know, we're all going to get to know each other so much over the next 6 months. So it's fine for you to be put on the spot just a little bit. So here's the thing. You did all of the right things for what you know how to do so far. When clients say something like, oh, that's a lot of money, or they freak out about the money, Christy dropped the video for a workshop that I did about the types of no's and the types of yeses that there are. And so if you get a chance, just copy down this link and watch it, because it was like a whole hour training. But I'll tell you this, one of the things that you want to do when someone asks you, how much does it cost? Or, you know, what does it look like to work with you? Either of the questions, I know that we get really excited. It's like, oh, good, a live one. You know, I've got a live one here. Maybe they're going to give me some money. What you want to do is you want to slow it down and say, you know, I'm so glad that you asked, but let's slow it down for a minute. There's a few things that I want to make sure of before we even talk about the money. And the first one is, you know, is this the right time in your life for coaching? And I know that that sounds like a weird question, because to Michael's point, it's almost like talking them out of it. But the truth is, when you say, I want to see if this is the right time in your life with coaching, with everything else that you have on your plate, because coaching's more than just a financial commitment. It's going to call you to be different than how you're being now. There's going to be certain things that you're going to do that are different. There's going to be, you know, a time element associated with it. So you tell me, you know, is this the right time? And what happens is then the client's going to talk themselves into it by telling you yes, why it's the right time, or no, why it's not. If they tell you that it's not the right time, it doesn't mean that it won't be the right time later. And so that's something to remember too. I plant so many seeds with people. Maybe it's the right time later, just not today. No problem. If they say, yes, it's the right time, then I say, okay, so I can hear that it's the right time. The next thing that we really need to talk about is your commitment level, because this is a commitment to self, you know, more than just the financial commitment. This is a commitment to self. And I'm wondering, you know, how do you feel about that right now in your life with wanting to make true changes, because if we coach together, things are going to shift. How committed are you to that shift? And then they're going to tell you, I'm really committed. I can't live another day like this, whatever it might be. But what happens when you slow it down before just saying, let's say that you used $1,500 as your package point, instead of saying it's $1,500, all that they hear at that point is $1,500, $1,500, $1,500, and they're not listening. What happens when you pre-qualify them and let them tell you why is they relax into it. Oh, I am ready. Yep, I really am committed. After you've checked those, wait and let them ask you again, so what's the price? And what you're going to say is, so let's talk that through as well. The first thing I want you to know is that by working together, here's what we're going to work on. And to Natasha's point, this is where you want to make sure you hit their biggest vision, that you really found out what's the thing that they really want that would make the money actually leave their pocket. Because like Heba said, people pay for all sorts of stuff all the time, but then tell you that they don't have money for personal or professional development. And you guys have all heard me say, people pay for timeshares they never use, boats that are in the driveway, and handbags, like whatever. They pay for all sorts of things, but they don't want to pay for coaching. So if you take it back to their biggest vision, the thing that they told you would mean a real life change for them, the thing that they're really struggling with, and you say, during our 3 months, we're going to really put our time and attention on this area, whatever the area is they told you. And this is where you want to be an excellent listener. You want to make sure that you really know what it is that will help them. So you feed all of that back. You don't say, in the 3 months, we're going to have this many sessions and it's $1,500. Instead, you say in the 3 months, we're going to work on X, Y, and Z, and that's going to shift this, this, and this. If we work on that, what do you think is going to change in your life? Bring them into the conversation and have them be really active as a participant. And then once that happens, you're going to see the change already. The wheels are going to be turning for them about possibility. Then when they ask you for the price again, it's tuition for this program is. And the reason for tuition is we are conditioned from a long time to pay money for school, whether it's certification, whether it's professional development, whether it was college, a class that you took. So tuition for this program is. And then you let them know and then be quiet. And if they still say, that's a lot, that's so much money, that's this or that, the next thing you do is you say, you know what, you're right. Because we never argue with somebody's money story. You could tell them it's $50 and they might say, that's a lot of money. Someone thinks something's a lot of money. Never argue. You're right. That is a lot of money. You're completely right about that. And you know what? I wouldn't want you to spend it unless you were 100% sure that it was going to work for you. And then that puts the pressure back on them. Are they ready? Are they going to be responsible? And then I typically will say, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we schedule a coaching session? Today was just to get to know each other to make sure that what you actually need is coaching. But let's have a coaching session because it's a lot like buying a car. I can tell you all of the features and benefits about the car, but until you drive it, test drive it for yourself, you won't really understand what it is or know how it drives. Then after you do that coaching session, most of the time, that's going to open the conversation for them to really be committed to yes, or for them to pass. And if they do pass, we don't want to talk them out of passing. We don't want to give them $500 off. It's like they're just not ready. And $500, even though it seems like a nice discount, when people aren't willing to move, they're not willing to make that investment, it almost always has nothing to truly do with the price. It has to do with them. Okay, did that help you?
Yes, it did. So I guess, where could I go from here? Because I think I sort of already got myself sort of in a little bit of a mess with her by sending that. And I sent the email within probably a half an hour of our conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to know what to do sort of from here.
Okay. Anyone have an idea of what she can do from here?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you come across an article or a blog post or anything that you think would be relevant to her situation that would help her, maybe shoot it over to her. And then just so that she has it in mind that you're actually there to help her. Does that make sense? Basically, like, just show her that you're thinking about her, and that, you know, hey, I came across this article, thought it was relevant to your situation.
Yeah. And that's a great thing to do. So instead of just following up means I'm wondering if you're going to give me money, you know. And so it actually would be better to say, I wonder if you're going to give me money, than just following up, because it's super inauthentic. People know we're not, oh, just thinking about you. No, you're not. You're wondering if I'm going to give you money. But if you send something that it's like, hey, you know, we were talking about this and this during our conversation, and I came across this podcast, or here's an article about that. Let me know what you think. And you don't bring it up anymore. You've already offered her $500 off. You've already told her what it is that, you know, you can do. The only other thing you may want to do is in a week or so after you follow up with an article, you can say, you know, during our conversation, what we did was see if coaching could help. What I'd love to do is actually gift you a coaching conversation so that you can experience it. But let some time go by.
Okay.
Helpful?
And what about like, yes. I think the article, and I was also thinking about even sending like a little, like a book that I love, but not so much a book that would help her, but more of like an inspirational book. Or what about like flowers? Is that too much?
Flowers might be too much. Yeah. I mean, they're nice. You can send the flowers to me. I'll put them on my desk. But flowers might be too much. However, I will tell you this. I have a budget, an actual line item for my business called client gifts and potential client gifts. And it's for books. It's for anything that we have talked about. I had a client one time tell me he was going to learn the harmonica. Sent him a harmonica. It was a cheap harmonica, but still sent him a $20 harmonica. Like when you hear something, it really makes us feel like, wow, my coach, my potential coach really gets me. Now, when it's a potential client, if I send something, it usually is a book. And what I ask them is, tell me what you learned from this. Tell me what you learned from this. And then I'll follow up and say, let me know, what did you think? What thing touched you the most? That way it's another conversation. And Natasha, I saw your hand. Oh, unmute.
Yeah, I was just, I think it was just something earlier. I liked the word tuition that you used.
Tuition.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, you know how I'm doing the group
Yeah.
calls? So can I frame those up as a tuition?
Oh yeah, it is tuition. It's always tuition.
Okay, I really like the way that sounds. It sounds easier, even from like me investing in myself. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting how sometimes some of the things just become, if it is something like tuition, it's just easier for us. It's like, oh, my brain can handle something called tuition. Yeah, it can handle that. But when it's like your investment for this, people are like, investment? I don't even have an investment in my 401k. Why would I give you an investment? Freaks them out. Tuition, it's softer. It means the same thing. But in our head, it's one of those words that it's like, oh, okay, I know how to process the word tuition. I know this means we're going to be creative. I know this means I'm going to learn something. Yeah. Good. Michael, did you have a situation? Because I know you kind of shared that you have something going on right now too.
Yeah. I coached, I had an intro call, a great intro call, a guy that reached out to me, and right up my alley in terms of what I coach around. And I gave him the price. He said, yeah, I'm going through divorce and this and that, and I'm paying for a bunch of stuff. I don't know if I don't know if I can do the money. So I said, you know what? Well, let's table that for now. Let's do a session so you can see what it's like. We had a great coaching session. I mean, he walked away with some really useful stuff. And then I was just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a no-brainer. And he dropped the money thing again. He's like, oh, I'll do this like, inexpensive course over here and do this over there and whatever. And I couldn't get him to budge. And then I sent him an email, and I said afterward, and I shared with him something in the email. What was it? It was, oh, it was a list of books. We talked about books. And he was like, oh, I love that list of books. And so I sent him the list of books. And then I said in the email, you know, if when you're ready to, something along the lines of when you're ready to choose yourself, you know, let me know. Because one of the things that he talked about is he's a nice guy. He's doing everything else for, you know, everything for everybody else, and nothing for himself. You know, let me take care of everybody else, and then I'll feel okay in return. So I said, you know, when you're ready to choose yourself, let me know. And I haven't heard back, and it's like I feel like it just got left dangling on the money block, and I don't know.
Yeah. So good job. You have done all the things that you have learned to do here. I wonder if there was a part where maybe it could have been slowed down a little bit. And with all of his money story, I wonder if there was an opportunity there to talk about that. Like, okay, if this is something, if you ask, is money the only thing getting in the way? If he says yes, then you can say, you want to brainstorm. You'd be surprised at what people have come up with.
So I kind of kicked myself after the conversation. I asked him, is it the money? Is it something else? He's like, yeah, it's the money.
Okay.
And there was something in me that prevented me from going and saying, oh, well, do you want to brainstorm? Because there was something in me that felt like, all right, now I'm being too salesy.
Yeah, good notice. You know, isn't it interesting how as coaches, our job is to serve people, but when people talk about money and tell us their reasons of why they can't, and this happens to me at times too, where you almost feel like I can't go there then. It's not respectful. They already told me they don't have the money. And instead of serving, we retract. It's like we go inward, okay, well, and we get off the phone or we get off the call. Where next time you know that, hey, there's an opportunity here. When people say that money is the only issue, it's like where there's a want, there's a way. And you can say that, hey, where there's a want, there's a way. Do you want to brainstorm? Would that be helpful to you? Maybe there's a possibility that we can create together. And if you do it in the attitude of service, then you really are serving. And if they say like, no, that's okay, then it's really not about the money anyway. It's about something else.
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I gathered from all of that it really wasn't about the money. He really wasn't ready to make that change.
Okay, well then, if that's what it is, it doesn't mean he won't be. So in 6 weeks or 3 months, because everyone, you should all be checking in with your past clients or past enrollment calls that did not become a client quarterly. Things change in people's lives each quarter. You can reach out and just say, hey, how's that thing going? And whatever it is that you detected that it really was about, ask about that. The other option too, if someone says that it's about the money, you brainstorm the whole thing, they're still really saying it's about the money, you have some other choices. You can be bold and you can say, it's interesting, I hear you saying it's about the money, but I'm wondering what else is it about? And let them tell you. Because there will be something else there that it is about. And if they keep that, it's not, okay, great, they're not ready. Something else you can do, you can always keep this one in your back pocket, is you can say, you know, what if we tried a smaller program? And did you pitch him a 3 or a 6 months, Michael?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about following up with him. I pitched him the 6, the 3, and then I was thinking about following up with him and saying, hey, you know what if we just work together for a month?
Yep. Okay. So you always want to make your highest recommendation with a client, never like a 6 and a 3. It's like my highest recommendation is 6. If he tells you all the reasons he can't, then of course you can offer the 3. But anytime you can bite size it to really help the client get an experience. Some people are freaked out about 6 months. They haven't even ever had a relationship last 6 months, let alone want to pay a coach for 6 months. You know what I mean? So you can make it super small. You can say, you know, this is not something that I usually do, but I'm wondering if it would serve you better for us to just dip our toe in the water and let's see what we can do in 30 days. Bring the topic that's most important to you and let's coach. Let's coach and see what movement you get. Tuition for that would be, and then you decide what it would be. But that's another option. And then the last thing that you can do for everyone on this call about, hey, if I get a client now they're ghosting me, or now they're suddenly a no, or it's about the money and they've left you hanging in some way, you can send an email that says, dear Gretchen, it was great talking to you last week. Here's an article that I found about what we talked about. Wondering if we should take the coaching conversation off of the table for now until you're 100% ready. What do you think that might do for a potential client? See the smile. Yeah, go ahead.
I think people usually want what they aren't offered.
Exactly.
It's the reverse psychology,
Yeah. And it sets you up to not look needy. Now you're not, and I'll discount this and I'll create another package and I'll send you 12 books and, and then I'm going to hike with you on Wednesdays. It's none of that. It's just like, hey, it was great talking to you, but as a professional, remember, we're coaches. This is a profession. It was a professional conversation that you had. If someone says they're going to get back to you, they have to think about it. They ghost you in any way, any of those things. An appropriate email to send out is, dear Gretchen, it was great talking to you. Here's that podcast I said I'd send you, or here's a podcast I found for you. Wondering, is it time for us to take the coaching conversation off the table for now until you're 100% ready? That way you can move on. Hi, Michael E.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Hi. So it's probably somewhat what you're saying, but the other thing, when you use that, give that option, I should say, of taking coaching off the table, it does kind of take, not only it makes them want what they aren't being offered or whatever, but it really does take the pressure off of them and let them sink into like, well, seriously, is it something they want?
Yeah.
Is it really something they want? Because if it isn't, then you really don't want them to dive into it, right? I mean,
right.
The 1,500 or 2,000 or 10,000 in your pocket may feel good for 5 seconds, but not if they're not going to really, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want the money, but not if they're not going to really dive in.
And not if they're not going to benefit, and so sometimes what does happen when you send that email is just to remember, and a lot of coaches, they get scared, like, I can't tell them we're taking the coaching conversation off the table. What do you have to lose? They're ghosting you anyway. Does not matter. So you be the professional. In all instances, we need to show up in our professional self as coaches. If you're a lawyer and you've been talking to me about maybe you're going to hire me to be your lawyer, I might be good at it, by the way, I don't know for sure. But if you were talking to me about that and I followed up with you as a lawyer to say, hey, you came to my office for an hour and we had that consultation, are you moving forward or are you going to go elsewhere? That's not an awkward email to get. You'd expect that from a professional that you spent time with. So it's the same thing. We need to be holding ourselves in our industry in the highest regard. Yeah. So that's one that can help. And I'll tell you too, the other thing too that sometimes can happen is giving up too soon. I'll give you an example. I have a potential client. We talked for about 9 months. And remember, you're planting seeds anytime that you're prospecting. It's just planting seeds. I never really know when someone's going to be ready to work with me or not, but I'm always planting seeds. I always have conversations with people. How are they doing? What are their problems? Would they like some help with that? All of those things. And this woman has been a yes for the whole 9 months, but there's been stuff, call it financial stuff, mom stuff, just the whole life bag of stuff that she's picking up. But I didn't give up. And then Stairway to Six came around and I knew it was a great program for her. And she knew it was a great program for her. She was a yes. And then stuff happened and she was a no. And I left it. I always respect people. She completely took it off the table. No problem. And then yesterday I emailed her and I said, are you a 100% no? And she wrote back, no, I'm in. And what she said is, thank you for continuing to serve me and knowing that it's really what I want. And that could have felt pushy. It could have felt like, God, how many times are you going to reach out to her? She told you no. No means no. but I knew in my gut that it really was a yes. She had to get past some of the things. And what she said is, I was completely overwhelmed the last time when I said it was off the table. This happened, and this happened. There were a lot of this happened. And she said, but yeah, I'm a yes. So you never know. You never know. So be willing to reach out if your intuition says it's right.
Can I share something along those lines?
Yeah, please do.
And I would like your feedback or anybody else's feedback. So I had a client who paid me the first payment of a 3-month program and then said, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do it, but keep the money. And I said, no, we're gonna coach. You paid me, so let's coach. I'll give you the 30 days that you already paid for, and let's see if we can move the needle. Well, we did. She definitely coached her. And then I asked her, I was just like, okay, you want to continue? Is this something? And she was like, no, I need to take a break and da da da. And I thought about it, and it's just like I felt kind of defeated. I sent her a text and I said, can I share with you my honest coaching opinion? And she said, sure. And I said, my highest recommendation for you is that we continue to coach at least another month, because you have these goals. It seems like you have a pattern of not following through. So I think that this would serve you the best. And she got back to me and she said, well, I actually did all of these things that I said I was going to do, but I could see myself needing your services again in the near future. So it wasn't like an immediate, buy back in, but it was positive to me, at least, that it seems like, the door is still open. So I'm open to your opinion about it.
Fantastic. That is bold coaching. That is bold coaching. My up level would be to always have the conversation on the phone rather than by text. Let her squirm on the phone when you ask, can I give you some feedback? Can I share with you something that I see? The other place to take that is if it's any sort of a pattern that's happening in somebody's life, whether it's lack of follow through, being late, whatever it is where else is this playing out? Where else are you not following through? Where else do you say yes? And then whatever it is for her, get overwhelmed, afraid, whatever, and pull out. And you mean no. What might serve you in checking your yes to make sure you really mean it so that you don't have to get yourself out of it? What's going on with this pattern of having to get yourself out of things? And find out. That's the real coaching. And always leave the result, whether she's going to continue coaching with you or not, who cares? Doesn't matter. You're there to serve. And so when we do it boldly and we're there to serve, we have nothing to lose. And then we know we played full out. But it's hard to do that on text. Even though your text was good, it's better if you can do that by actually either seeing them like this, on the screen, or by phone.
I see. Okay.
And finding out too, like, where else in your life is this playing out? People know. They're like, man, I do this here, I do this here, I do this there. And then find out, what's that costing you? How's that affecting you? How would you like to see that different? Yeah, Natasha, go ahead.
So I love the idea of playing boldly. But last year I had this, I had this woman in my, in a coaching program, and, for, my ideal rate and everything. And I think it was like the second month in, I called her out on something. And maybe it was the way that I did it, but she fired me after that. Like, she could not come back.
Really?
Yeah, she was not willing to step into or explore what I presented to her.
Was it in the way that you presented it?
It might have been. I'm gonna say yes, because it had to have been, maybe. Maybe I could have had a softer approach to it because I really called her out. But I love the idea of playing boldly, but I guess you have to have the right wording for that.
It's playing boldly but respectfully. And so you can play boldly, but you want to ask for permission. Can I share something with you that I see? Can I share something with you that I'm wondering about? Curious about this thing that's happening.
I didn't say it like that.
So if you didn't say it like that, it might have been something in the delivery. What you saw was probably true. And then what you can say too, this is another great coaching technique, is to say, this is what I'm experiencing with you. I'm not saying that it's true for you. I'm just saying this is my experience of it. How do you see it now that I share that with you? And that way too, it's like, hey, this is just my read on this. You don't follow through, you this, you that, whatever it is. How do you see it? And let them tell you. And when our coaches call us on stuff, it makes us super uncomfortable. My coaches have called me on all sorts of little behaviors that I have, and it's just the truth. Like, but they'll say, how do you see it? What else is going on in your coaching work? Go ahead, Christy.
I was going to add to that. When I know I'm about to ask a pretty bold question, when I do ask any type of permission, it could be, are you, whatever permission I'm about to ask them. If we're on video, I try to pay attention to their body language, because if they say yes, but their body says no, I will shift it because I know they're not ready to hear it. Maybe not until like the following 5 sentences when I say something else. It's just something I normally keep an eye on. But what's funny is that a few weeks ago, my coach called me out and I felt my entire body get tense. I'm like, oh, well, that's how it feels to be on the other side. So experience it on the other side, you kind of start realizing, okay, there's certain times to bring things up and you should still bring them up. It's just how you do it and the timing of when you do it so they can actually be open to hear it. Or else it goes flat, which happens sometimes. Sometimes, we're not the complete masters of body language and time, and that just happens.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good add-on. What else is happening in your world that you might want to bring up?
I need to talk to my spouse about that.
I need to talk to my spouse about that. Okay. So when a client says, I need to talk to my spouse about that, from all that you've learned and all the things you've heard me say, what do you think you should say back? Anybody? Go ahead, Andrea.
I mean, again, I don't have much experience yet, but I would just say that that you want to honor that. I honor or acknowledge you for the fact that you want to speak to your spouse about this. It's definitely a major investment in both money and time, commitment. I don't know. That's something I would say.
Yeah, good. Anyone else have anything they want to add?
I usually, sorry.
No, go ahead, Natasha.
I usually come back and ask, how do you think they would respond? Or have you talked to them about this, and how do you think they would respond to you doing a coaching program?
Okay, good. How about what were you going to say?
I mean, it hasn't come up for me, but I remember having this discussion either with you previously or with a different coaching. And I think that there was a thought that also making yourself available as a coach to speak to the spouse should they have any questions about it. Yeah. And maybe even offer a coaching session for them so that they can experience the power of coaching. So that because just from everything else we do, from buying an appliance to anything else, they want both spouses to make the decision. I mean, they do that when you sign an agreement with an attorney. They tend to want a partnership, whatever it is, to be both on board with large purchases. I think that getting them to feel coaching or to have the ability to ask questions is really important.
Yeah, you're onto something there. So there's a few ways to do it. Whenever someone says, oh, I need to talk to my spouse about that, I usually say, of course you should, so that you don't sleep on the couch. You should definitely talk to your spouse about that. And then I take it back to their vision, and I'll say, so what do you want to share with them when you're going to talk to them? Like, what is it that you're hoping coaching is going to do for you? Because here's the deal. If they go to their spouse and they say, I want to do coaching, it's $1,500. The spouse only hears $1,500 and thinks about the new roof that's needed or the new whatever. If they go to their spouse and say, I want to do coaching, and here's the deal. I talked to this person and they said they could help me with that book that I've been trying to write for 5 years. They said they could help me with whatever, to not be afraid of my boss anymore at work, and maybe even to be able to get a raise. Whatever the thing is, that when you come at the spouse that way, instead of like it's $1,500, the spouse typically, especially if it's something that they have heard this person talk about year in, year out, or they know it's causing a lot of stress, is going to say, great, how much is it? Well, it's 1,500. Yeah, you should do that. So it becomes possibility rather than affordability. And so whenever you get someone who says they want to talk to their spouse, it's like, good, I want you to. And I say the same thing. And if your partner wants to talk to me about anything or has any questions, I'm more than happy to get on the phone. I can have them experience coaching as well. It's a major decision. Tell me what you're going to let them know that you're hoping to achieve. And that way you've already kind of helped them with the wording of it. And you get to see, is it an excuse that they want to talk to their spouse about it and they just want to get off the phone with you and never speak to you again? Or is it something that they do want to talk to their spouse about and they could use your help with the language? Yeah, Natasha.
So in the cases that I've gotten a yes when they've said that they had to talk to their spouses, when I reflect on that, I see that the people who said yes had already had in their mind that they wanted to have a coach and had already bounced the idea off of their spouses. So then when they needed to go back to their spouse, it was just like to confirm, to confirm that they were feeling good about this coach and to confirm that it was okay to spend the dollar amount. And so for me, it's kind of a red flag if they haven't said anything at all to their spouse. Like their spouse doesn't even know that they're looking at looking for a coach. What do you think?
Maybe. Sometimes yes and sometimes no. I don't know. I do things on the whim all the time. I might just say I'm going to go talk to someone and tell my husband about it after the fact. Not necessarily make the financial decision after the fact, but might just said I'm going to talk to a coach or a therapist or whatever, and tell them after, not in a secretive way, but I get ideas all the time. And sometimes I want to check them out first and let them know, oh, I talked to a coach today, or I did this. Same thing with him, with me. And I don't see that as any sort of a red flag. So be careful in your own mind of what you might make a red flag that really isn't. Good comments, everybody.
What I'm hearing in this money story and then the spouse excuse and all of these things like that could be what Rich Litvin calls role reversal, where it's like the client wants to take over what they, we if we let that story fly, we essentially just gave up our control or our power to the client, as opposed to staying in our power position and serving them. It's like, I feel it happen within me, where it's just like, that was the first time I got, I need to talk to my spouse. And so I was just like, okay, go talk to your spouse and then get back to me when you get back to me. And I feel like I gave up my power position in that moment.
So that's a good notice. Where the power was given up was the get back to me when you get back to me. Remember, this is a professional conversation. So it's like, yeah, talk to whatever the spouse's name is about this. And why don't you and I get on the phone on Thursday so that I can answer any other questions that you have or answer them for your spouse? But you want to bookend it. You want to make sure that you bookend it. And the role reversal is really important. Anytime you feel yourself going into people pleasing or your social self, then you are doing the role reversal. If you feel afraid of the client, that's role reversal. And that's why, too, we want to still slow them down and find out if they're ready and committed. So even if they say, I need to talk to my spouse, you can say, okay, good. Before you talk to your spouse, let's work a couple things out. I'm wondering, how ready are you? How committed are you? You can still do that there, because it's going to sell it for them to talk to their spouse. If they're like, well, I am ready. I need it because of this. I am ready. I am committed. When they talk to their spouse, it's a different position than just, I need to talk to my spouse because I'd like to get off the phone with you. All right. Anything else tonight?
I have one, I don't know if it's a question or falls into the category of kind of what's been happening. And that is, I had a enrollment call right before Christmas. You know, went really successful. When I say successful, we kind of got into the meat of what was going on with this guy, and created, you know, sort of some places to go. And he said he wanted to think about it. So I sent him a follow-up email, of course, and he emailed me back and he said, you know, hey, Michael, it was really great, you know, chatting with you. I loved all what we talked about, you know, happy holidays. And that was it. And so I just followed up with an email and just kind of outlined what we had talked about and sort of discussed, saying, hey, I would love to work with you, and let's talk about a program that would, you know, create and help you achieve all what we discussed, including, you know, specific examples. So I just sent it. Nothing, I mean, I wouldn't expect a return, but I don't know if it's like, am I, and I don't want to overthink it, but is he, I mean, where do I go from here if I don't hear from him? Obviously the obvious, you know, he's not ready, but are there any I's that needed to be dotted or T's crossed here?
You know, maybe, I'm not sure because I wasn't in on that conversation, but here's
Right.
one thing that you could do. Give it until next week and you can email him and say, hey, so-and-so, I've got something for you. Wondering if you've got 15 minutes where we can get on the phone. And that way he, you know, if you have something that you've thought of that would really serve him and you offer that up, having another conversation where you can get the person on the phone to get them back talking to you is helpful. If you've heard a problem, you always ask, can you use some help with that? So there were things you learned about him in your conversation. I know that you said you outlined a program, but I wonder if you actually asked him, would you like some help with that?
No, not in the kind of direct way that I'm good at, because it's what I do.
Yeah.
For some reason, you know, whatever fell short. So yeah. I mean, that's a good tool that I left out.
So there's still some things that you can do to
I think so.
Yeah, to let's wait until next week and then we can get back on that and see, could he use a 15-minute conversation? Would he like some help with that? Maybe you've got something for him and you can say, hey, can we get on the phone?
So that quote unquote something for him is something I should kind of dig up, whether it's
You need to think about what it is from your conversation, really think about how you could serve him, and then you talk about that. Or even when you get him on the phone, you say, you know, the one thing I didn't ask you during our conversation, I heard that you are going through this, this, and this, is could you use some help with that? And I thought it would be remiss if we just went back and forth on email. I wanted to get you on the phone again and just ask you, could you use some help? Because at this point, what do you have to lose? Remember, when we're bold coaching, we're going all in. There's nothing to lose, especially if we go with it that they're not hiring us anyway. If they're not hiring you anyway, you have nothing to lose.
Yep.
And chances are they hire you. You know, that's just the other piece, especially when you're bold enough to do that.
Okay.
Good. Andrea, did you have your hand raised before?
I did. So actually, I'm a little embarrassed because I just said I have my first paying client, because she said in person she was committed. She emailed me back and said she was committed, but she actually hasn't paid me yet. So I sent her the contract and asked her to sign it and send it back to me. And I think partly the way I worded the contract was pretty much how it came out of the Life Purpose Institute manual. I had said prior to our first session, well, I actually said prior to our next session.
Yeah.
And we sort of all, like yesterday we had, or Monday, we sort of had like the first session, because she actually was converted from one of my like freebie people into a client. So
here's something. Here's what you want to do, that no matter what, you have to be really specific on payment terms, not prior to our next session. It's payment is due on or before and lay it out when it's due. I can be paid through, give the links of how you can be paid. That way it's not vague. You also, when you are onboarding someone has said yes, before they get off the phone with you, you want to say, okay, so here's what's going to come next. You're going to get the contract. It's going to say that your payment of $500 is due by the 15th. Would you prefer to pay me through Venmo or through PayPal or Zelle? They'll tell you, okay, that'll be in the contract too. You're going to get the payment link and you're going to get the intake paperwork. If you can get all those things back to me, that would be great. That way you've told them. We can't be afraid to talk about money. We're the professional. So lawyers tell you it's a $10,000 retainer to work with me. You're going to pay my admin assistant on the way out. You're going to sign the papers. I'll call you next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. The same thing. So now what you would do is you can follow up with an email and just say, here's the updated contract. I realized that I left out the payment terms, the payment dates.
Okay.
Or you can get her on the phone and talk about the payment, but never be scared to talk about
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay, everyone. So what are your takeaways for tonight? What'd you learn?
Be bold about the money.
Be bold about the money. That's right.
I feel like Jerry Maguire, you know, that show me the money.
Yeah.
I'd say for me, it's the realization of role reversal.
Yeah, I saw your aha moment with that. Anyone else have a takeaway?
Something I knew, but I haven't actually put into actual plan is follow up quarterly with my past clients and past enrollment calls.
Good.
I mean, I had many, but I would say I love the tuition word.
Yep.
And just, I mean, so much of that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And grab that link that Christy put in there on the types of no's and the yeses. That'll be good for you to listen to. Okay, so most of you I'm going to see on Saturday for our kickoff of Stairway to Six. Whoop, whoop, super excited. The room's going to open at 8:45. We're going to have a fun day. There's going to be fun and we're going to learn a bunch of things, but I'm fun, so it will be fun. And for anyone, there's a couple of you on here who have not yet joined Stairway to Six. If you are interested in that, there's one spot left. You can email me or Christy after for information if you'd like it. And other than that, everybody, you guys have a great night tonight, and I'll see you Saturday.
Thank
Great
you.
night.
You're welcome.